a lot of people have different perceptions of entrepreneurship, right? Or being the CEO. Entrepreneur, it literally means to undertake. So if you're an entrepreneur, you are an undertaker, and you undertake the tasks that are at hand, right? So if that's the root word that we're going to base it off of, then I believe, yes, we are all born entrepreneurs. If we're born in the image of God, we are born as undertaker.
Welcome to the Superhuman Life. I'm your host, Frank Rich, and this is the only podcast in the world dedicated to helping men break free from the shackles of addiction through the power of faith and fitness. It is our goal with every episode to help you take back control and rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. And we do so by bringing you real and raw conversations with people just like you, aiming to find their place in this world while dealing with the everyday struggles and battles that we all face. Now, it is my belief that we were all created for a specific purpose. And if we can harness that belief or faith, then take control of our mind and body or fitness, then we can ultimately create the life that we've always dreamed about, our own superhuman life. I want to let you know how grateful and blessed I am to have you here with me today. Let's get on to today's show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting and amazing episode of the Superhuman Life. As always, I am your host, Frank Rich. And guys, I'm so fired up for today. This is one of my favorite conversations to have, type of conversations to have. Every episode is one of my favorites. And if you guys haven't caught on to that yet, just get ready, because every single week, we're just bringing the fire. We're bringing the absolute best guests. We're bringing the best insight, the best tools, the best tactics, the best strategies for you to step into that life that you were created to live. But today we're talking entrepreneurship. Today we're talking sales. You guys know me. I have a fitness background. I've been in the entrepreneurship space since 2013, currently running a few different businesses here. But this is something that's been a part of my life for decades. Me personally, all the way back into selling candy on the school bus, into getting into sales training, when I was 20, 21 years old, leading sales organizations. It really sits deeply at the core of who I am, and one of the things that I'm most passionate about. We haven't had a lot of conversations like that. So that's what we're getting into today. And for those of you guys that are out there like, sales, entrepreneurship, it's not for me, I challenge you to stick around, because the way that we frame this, it's about being the entrepreneur in your life. We're all called to be an entrepreneur. And we're actually going to go to the root word of that in today's conversation, and actually explaining what a true entrepreneurship is, or what a true entrepreneur is, and how, if we believe in the Bible and we are Christians and we believe that we're put on this earth for a purpose, then we're all called to be the CEO of our own lives. So we get into introducing our guest here in a moment, somebody that I just got connected with, but somebody that I know we're going to do a lot of amazing stuff together. But before we do that, guys, let me just remind you what we're doing here and how you can continue to support us. Obviously, the show is for you. We're not running ads. We're not monetizing. It's absolutely free to listen. It's absolutely free to follow or subscribe. So you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that follow, subscribe button on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you are listening. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're notified every Monday when the new episodes do drop. So it's absolutely free. This is something that we're doing for impact. This is something that we're doing to help you step into your life, to help you find breakthroughs in the things that you're struggling with. So how can you support us? Two ways. Most importantly, if you haven't done so yet, I already said, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button. But we love reviews. We love to know how we're impacting you. We love to know how we're helping you transform and change your life. So if you haven't done so yet, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, make sure to leave that 5-star rating and written review if you're getting value out of these. If you're not getting value and you want to let us know, leave a 1-star. We'll love to read those as well, because we want to know how we can improve. How can we make these conversations better for you? But if you are extracting value out of these and they are impacting your life in a positive way, tap that 5 stars, leave us a written review. But most importantly, guys, if there's people in your life that need to hear this message, there's somebody that that resonates with what we're talking about today, make sure to share this episode with them once you made it all the way through till the end. But without further ado, guys, let me get into introducing our guest. My guest today is none other than Rylee Meek. Rylee Meek is the host of the King's Council podcast and co-founder of King's Council Coaching. Partnering with the NFL Super Bowl champion and serial entrepreneur Steve Weatherford, King's Counsel Coaching empowers individuals and families to create a proven framework of success built with the 5 power pillars of life in a deeper relationship with God. And we unpack those 5 pillars of life and how you need to be prioritizing and implementing into your life. Stephen Rylee, CEO of Your Life Events, have helped thousands of people achieve clarity and vision. We talk a lot about vision for their lives and are taking their tour on the road in 2021 to a city near you. So we let you know we're going to get connected. They're going to be here in Tampa. You're probably going to see me at one of these events very soon. In addition to their CEO of Life Events, Stephen Rylee will also be hosting events focused on human optimization and business masterminds, all through King's Counsel Coaching. Now, over the last decade, Rylee has helped companies and entrepreneurs scale their work and wealth through his company, Social Dynamic Selling. So we talk a little bit about how he got into this, some of the early struggles that he had in business. Now, through the Social Dynamic Selling system, Rylee has taken 8 companies to 7 and 8 figures within their first year each, generating over $125 million in sales in the past 9 years, all utilizing his proven methods and strategies to build lasting relationships and lifetime customers. So that's him. That's a resume of success. That's a resume of achievements. We unpack how he got into entrepreneurship. We unpack the work that he's done with Steve, the things that they're doing. Like I said, we talk about the root word of entrepreneur. We talk about the 5 pillars of life. And more importantly, we show you how you can become the CEO of your life. So without further ado, guys, let's get into today's conversation with none other than Rylee Meek, how to be the CEO of your life. Rylee, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Hey, Frank, happy to be here, man.
Dude, I'm so fired up for today. It's been a lot of fun getting ready for this. This is a conversation that I know I'm going to really enjoy. A little bit different, like I was telling you, than probably a lot of the episodes that we've done up to this. But for me, I think our journeys are so similar. So just kind of set a little bit of a backdrop. I mean, I've done some bodybuilding. I've been in the entrepreneurship space. I'm coaching men now. But before all that, I was a sales guy. Like I was a sales guy in my early 20s, leading sales organizations, studying some of the things that you teach in one of your books. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into your story. What led you into entrepreneurship? What led you? I know you had some pitfalls that you had to overcome. And then really just kind of unpack sales a little bit. And for anybody that's listening, and you're like, oh, sales, this is not for me. I think you and I can both agree that sales is a part of life. And, the skills that you teach, the things that you talk about, yeah, they can apply in the business world. But I think a lot of, what makes a successful salesperson really carries over into building a successful life. I think we both really, really see eye to eye on that. So why don't we kind of go back to the beginning a little bit, Rylee, and just kind of talk about, maybe your story of getting into entrepreneurship, getting into sales, and then we'll just kind of see where that takes us. And I know we'll unpack a lot of things for the listeners
Sure.
here.
Yeah, sure, brother. Absolutely. Well, as you know, man, I'm up in Minnesota right now, but I grew up in a small town in South Dakota. And when I say small town, I mean like 900 people. So very small. And so there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity when it came to, business, entrepreneurship, anything along those lines. Nor did I even really know much about it. But at the age of 15, I knew I wanted to make some money. You get your driver's license at the age of 14 in South Dakota. And so I wanted to have that car. And I thought, I might as well work for it. Right. So it wasn't something that my folks asked me to do, but I just thought that I should, pull my own weight. And so I got a job. And the only job really available at the time was making pizza at our small town gas station. And it was minimum wage at that time was $5.15 an hour. And so I went there. I worked 1 8-hour shift, and I did the math in my head, and I thought, "There's no way I'm doing that again," and I quit. So my first day on the job was my last day, and that really is what spurred my start of this entrepreneurship journey, and really just figuring out like what I really wanted in life. And I certainly knew, because what got me at that time was, this concept of an hourly rate or a wage. What really upset me at that time was not that somebody put that amount on my time, right, of what my time was worth. But what really upset me was that I allowed that to happen, because even at the age of 15, I knew that my time was worth much more than $5.15 an hour. And that's when I just started to seek out different mentors, different coaches. And that I really had the wherewithal at that time to know that I had to be intentional about surrounding myself with the like-mindseted people. And I say mindseted specifically because so many of us try to be around like-minded people, and it doesn't do us any good to be around the people that just all think the same way that we think, right? That's not challenging, or isn't going to encourage us in the right direction. And so I wanted to be around like-minded people that may have different thoughts than me, but at least they had the concept or the vision to continually grow within their lives. Because I'm a firm believer that we are either progressing or we are regressing, and that's it's going to be that way until the day I die. And that's what I've really done ever since I had that realization at the age of 15. And surrounding myself with those people. Anytime that I've leveled up in any area of my life, it was being intentional on putting myself in the room with like-minded people. And that's what I've been, doing for the last 20 years. Heck, I'm 35 years old now. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, we're just about the same age. That's just incredible awareness. Like, did you have somebody in your I know you talked about this small town. Did you have uncles or other people in your family that were pursuing business, were pursuing goals? Because I mean to have that level of awareness of no, my time is not worth, or my time is worth so much more than 515. For me, I kind of had this aha moment. I mean, literally like in grade school. My mom, I can remember going to Sam's Club and we would buy the big boxes of Airheads, and I would take them on the school bus and I would sell them for a quarter a piece or 5 for $1. So I learned literally back when I was 7, 8 years old, how to, take something, buy it in mass quantity and flip it and make a profit margin off of it. And then, I started a landscaping business of, just pushing around a lawnmower, knocking on doors. Hey, your yard needs to be cut. So I realized that there's always opportunities from a very, very young age. Like who were you learning this from? Or was it just kind of like a revelation kind of in your life?
Yeah, it sounds weird. So my folks got divorced when I was 5. And I went kind of back and forth between households a fair amount. And when I was 8, my mom had remarried a gentleman, and he was a business owner. So it's similar to kind of that rich dad poor dad concept where I saw him be able to make his own schedule, and financially they were they made decent money, versus my dad worked his tail off. He was an independent contractor, but he still had specific time where he delivered mail rural route, and every single day, 6 days a week, he from 6 a.m. till 1, he was working, and early mornings, and I don't think he ever really made more than 40 grand a year his whole life. And so I saw these two different versions, and I knew what I wanted, and it certainly wasn't to wake up early in the morning and only have 40 grand a year to show for it. And so realizing what I wanted, and this is where I've when I look back now, again, anytime that I've leveled up, or when I saw what I wanted, I was always looking for the fruit in other people's lives, and did I truly want that? And anytime I hired a coach, or I was looking to surround myself with those people, I wanted to make sure that they had the fruit in their life that I wanted,
Mm.
right? Because there's so many coaches out there nowadays that those who can't always tend to teach, and they don't necessarily walk the walk, or they're very good at telling people what they should be doing or shouldn't be doing, but they don't actually have the fruit in their own life. And that was a big thing for me, was being intentional on who did I want to be like, what did I want to be like, what did I represent, and then putting myself in those circles. And I had that aha moment, really, of I was given this analogy of a shark. A shark, if it's a baby shark is born and it's kept in a fish tank, that shark will never grow more than 8 to 10 inches. And that same shark, if it's born and it's then put in the ocean, and it's in an environment that it can grow, it can do what God originally designed it to do. That shark can grow to 8, 10, 15 feet in length. And the only thing that was different was the environment that it was in. And so I knew I had to be intentional intentional about getting myself in the right environments that's going to allow my God-given talents, gifts, and abilities to really flourish. But it all came down to the environment that I was putting myself in.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, it's there's all those kind of cliche quote cards out there.
Yeah.
You're the sum of the five people. Hang around five millionaires, you'll be the sixth, or hang around five broke people, you'll become the sixth
Right.
broke person. And I mean, you're a living example. And I'm so glad you touched on the fruit of the coach. Like I feel like in today's world, with social media and just the ability to to connect with anybody throughout the world. And I mean, I've been in this internet marketing space for going on almost 5 years now. So I've witnessed a lot of this. I mean, I even know some of these people that'll, rent a car, rent a house for the day just to,
Right.
take the pictures, or literally will turn on test mode on their Stripe so they could run a bunch of fake purchases. So then they can take a screenshot of their back end bank account and be like, oh, I did 50,000 a day. And it's unfortunate, but maybe here's an opportunity, cause I'm a product of the people that have been around me as well. I mean, everything in my life that I've done or accomplished has been the result of me modeling, learning, and having coaches in certain areas. And so to this day, I have a fitness coach. I have people that work with me in business, and I have a spiritual coach as well. So with that, I mean, you obviously going back 20 years at 15, it was much harder to seek out the right type of mentors. So what was that process like for you back then? Like, how were you coming from the small town able to find, these mentors, these people that you wanted to surround yourself with? And then what can people, help them today in kind of, working through some of the BS that's out there, filtering through some
Sure.
of the stuff to find the right type of people to
Yeah.
lead them.
Yeah, absolutely. So back then, for what I found myself doing, once a month, I would drive up here to Minneapolis, where I'm at now. It's about a 5 hour drive, but once a month I would drive up here and I would attend these they were called like success training kind of seminars. So it was like a full day, a Saturday event, but I was in a room and I was learning how to communicate, how to sell. I was just surrounding myself with people that were on the same mission that I was. But that took money, that took time, and but I was willing to invest into that once a week, 5 hours, a one way trip, or excuse me, once a month. I would drive up here and put myself in those environments. Now, obviously, 5 hours, I had a lot of time to listen to books, or it was books on CD back then, and podcasts weren't really a big thing at that point. But it was books. In personal development, anything that I could get my hands on, or just consume, whether it be physically reading it or listening to it. I was just a sponge at that time, which then it was really putting it into practice is really what getting the reps in essentially is what allowed me to continually level up in those different areas. And so it's one thing to consume it, but to actually digest it and put it into practice is the other thing. Because again, so many people think they know what to do, or have all the answers, and they'll tell you if you just ask them. But again, there's no fruit in their actual life, and that was what I always looked for. Even now, I have coaches in the physical realm. I'm never going to hire a physical fitness trainer that's fatter than I am, right? I'm never going to hire somebody financially, take sales advice from somebody that's never sold more than me, right? I want to make sure that I'm always continually leveling up. And if you are the top dog in your circle, it's time to put yourself in a different circle. Not that you have to neglect those that you're currently working with, but the only way that you can continue, there are either bucket dippers or bucket fillers. And if you are in a circle where people are constantly dipping their bucket into you, you got to go get filled up somewhere else. So it's kind of like one arm can be reaching up and one arm can be reaching down, and that's how we're able to really continually grow, but not grow alone, right? In order for us, I mean, we can, if you want to go fast, you can go alone in situations in life, whether it's your career or relationships or whatever it is. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go together. And doing it together, and really within our coaching program, the King's Council, it's like we are a tribe of like-minded people that are on mission to discover, develop, and deploy God's given talents, gifts, and abilities within our own lives. But the only way that we're able to do that is in relationship with others that help pull out those God-given talents, gifts, and abilities.
Yeah, and that's been obviously, I mean, this last year plus has made that, difficult, and I think that's why, having these podcasts, having the virtual Zooms and everything like that, it's you got to get plugged into something. If you're still in a situation, whether it's your state, province, or country, it's still, restricting. We're very fortunate here down in Florida. I mean, you said you were just here, last week. Like, we're one of the most open free states. I mean, what DeSantis has done has been amazing, but I know there still
Amazing,
are a
bro.
lot of
It's
places.
night and day from up here in Minnesota right now, man.
Yeah, I my coach literally, like, he just packed up his family from Toronto, and he's like, we're out, like, selling the house, shipped the car down. And his first day here, he was just all over IG, just like, I'm drunk on freedom. Like, he hadn't experienced anything like this. I mean, he'd been in Florida before, but he spent the last 13 months just locked down up there. And it's yeah, I'm very very fortunate. I haven't had to really deal with a lot of the other things that people are. I love that you talked about the application side of things, because I know so many people, and this was even a struggle for me, like, early on, in the getting into the internet marketing space. Like, I wanted to attend every single event. I wanted to read every single book. And I found myself in this almost, paralysis by analysis. Like, I was over consuming, and I was consuming things that at times were far beyond where I needed to be. So, that's something we've talked about, and I've preached myself. It's reading just enough or studying just enough to get you to that next phase. Apply it, test it, tweak it, and then move on. Don't fall into this over consuming. So, going back to kind of your journey here. So we're 15. We start learning these events or start attending these events. We uncover that, hey, we're worth so much more than just a 515 per hour. What was maybe that first business venture, or how did you start to apply this? Because I know you've had a lot of success in the last decade. But I know that there were some trials and tribulations. So
Yeah.
let's kind of walk through maybe some of those first business ventures, and then that what led us to kind of this social scaling system that you built, and
Yeah.
then all the things that you're doing today.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I was, my very first entrepreneurship kind of role or venture was in a network marketing company called Herbalife, and that was where I was able to surround myself with those mindseted people, and it was an amazing experience, amazing time in my life. I experienced tremendous growth by being around those type of people, and I was the challenge that I faced with the network marketing world, and I love the industry. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I think it's a phenomenal business model if it's done right. It the challenge is a lot of it's based upon duplication and replicating yourself, like the concept of 1% of 100 people's efforts versus 100% of your own. I love that. I drank that Kool-Aid it completely. The problem that I found was that I wasn't duplicatable. But I was retailing between 10 and 15 grand a month in nutritional supplements at the age of 19. And I had to get creative because part of being in that industry, I got involved because some of my other family was involved. So when you join those companies, it's like, well, go tell your friends and family, right? It's like you're an insurance sales rep. They just try to get you to go sell all your friends and family right away. Well, all my friends and family were already eating the stuff. So I didn't have any more warm market. So I had to figure out, how could I get cold traffic, people that I don't know, they don't know me. How could I get them to respond and want to listen to me, talk about health or nutrition? And so I came up with some catchy little marketing taglines. The first one was called "We Pay You to Lose Weight," and my phone rang off the freaking hook. And that's when I really started to learn the sales process. I put together like a good, better, best package, and it was all through trial and error. And it was one thing that I always did early on, and I still do to this day, is to constantly be conscious of how I can get better. And after each sales presentation that I've done, or even if it's a new model within the social dynamic selling system now, every single presentation that I do or sales call that I would sit in on, I sit down and I write out what happened and then why they bought or didn't buy, right? And I'm not going to just go off memory of that, because you do enough of those, everything kind of rolls into one. But I wanted to make sure that I was overcoming every single objection in the presentation versus getting to the end, asking for the sale, it needed to be a no-brainer for them. And that's what I started to do and develop in that process. And through that, I realized that, it wasn't a duplicatable system that I had put together. It was all my own efforts. So I looked at numerous different business opportunities and ventures out of that. I've sold everything from siding and windows to business valuations to insurance. Still have an insurance agency right now. So all over the board. But I had a couple different business ventures out of the country. One was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which I won't get into the details of that, but it was like my first mental breakdown, in my early 20s. And then the other one was a couple years after that was actually in Mexico, which I would have been 23 at the time. And I'd experienced it, not substantial success, but I'd been earning six figures for a couple years at that point. And I had a condo here in Edina in Minneapolis area. And I owned an Anytime Fitness franchise at the time. So I had like a brick and mortar business, but I never worked so hard in my life and made so little in that business. So I was looking for like, what's next? Like, am I just going to be this gym owner? And this company was opening up operations in Mexico and in Puerto Vallarta. And I thought, man, this is it. This is my ticket. I can actually build. It was a network marketing company. And so I totally bought into that like ground floor opportunity type concept. And I went down there and things were going great. We were recruiting heavily. I was working my tail off. I'd rented out my condo here in the States. And about 5 months into this, the government came in and basically kicked us out. They shut us down and said, "You can't sell this here. Go back to your country." And I found myself on a flight back to the States, pretty down because I had this realization that not only had I pretty much invested all of my money into this opportunity, but on my flight home, I realized that not only was I broke at this time, but I was also essentially homeless. Like I rented out my condo, so I didn't even have any place to stay. So my wife and I found ourselves sleeping on my sister's couch. And that was, again, kind of my second midlife crisis, if we'll call it that, of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Maybe I should just go play it safe and go back to school and get that, college degree. And I had this internal just kind of turmoil, we'll call it, that was just going on within me of like, what am I going to do? Because as smart as I was at that time, not only was I broke and homeless, but I got my wife pregnant too. So why not have a kid on top of it during this time? And that you want to talk about putting some fire under your butt. That'll do it, because I realized I needed to really buck up here and provide and build something that was going to last. And that's when I was first introduced to this concept now that we now know as the social dynamic selling system. But it all stemmed from an ad that I responded to on Craigslist, of all places, because I was spending my nights basically scouring the internet of just like, what am I going to do next? Like I'm thinking of like what I could invent and what I could build and how could I sell it, and it all came down to a sales system. And that's really what we developed. And it's this concept of selling one to many versus one-on-one. And really what rocked my world on this was I got to sit in on a one to many, so a dinner seminar essentially, that this gentleman was pitching his products. And I left that meeting completely rocked, because everything that I had done up until that point was always selling one-on-one. Like I would sit down with you, Frank, and I would take you from A to Z. It could be a 1 hour, 2, 3, it could be a 4-hour sales presentation, depending upon what I'm trying to sell, and then ultimately make a commission. And as much as I love the idea that they always say in sales, or as an independent contractor, you earn what you're worth, or your earning is uncapped. Like you can, as much as you want to make. And I never really bought into that, because I knew that there was only a certain amount of time in the day. I could only do so many presentations before I became emotionally just drained. Like you couldn't go on. So I never fully bought into that. But when I saw this gentleman he simply did one presentation. hour and a half. And at the end, he just asked for an appointment for those to meet with him that wanted to know more or wanted to know what the price was. And it rocked my world because I thought, man, this guy just got 8 people that raised their hand that said, yes, I want to know how much this is going to cost. And he's already done the presentation. And I thought, if he did that, I mean, I'll do one of these every single week. And that was really the birth of, this would have been back in 2011. That was really the birth of what, again, we now know as the social dynamic selling system. And I thought, okay, what could I sell using this model? And I started my very first company back in July of 2011, selling to groups, doing dinner seminars. And at that time, we were selling like insulation. This is the funniest part, man. I am like the least mechanical person on the face of this earth. Like these photos behind me, my wife hung those. Right?
Yeah, I would say I might have to. I might challenge you on that. If you can see, my photos are actually not on the wall.
They're not even hung.
Because I'm single, dude. I went through a breakup in last July, part of the whole story and whatnot. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't have a tool in this place at all.
Right, the only callus on your hands are from lifting weights.
It's from the gym. It's from the gym. Exactly. Absolutely.
I'm the same way, bro. There's no dirt under these fingernails either. So. But it was funny because I oftentimes in the sales world, and I'm sure you've heard this too, it's like, you got to really be passionate about what you sell. Like if you really truly believe in your product, you that has to be a must. And I'm proof that is not true, because what I was passionate about was my wife and my daughter. Like the vision that I had for my future was so clear on where I was going to be at. How I was going to get there didn't matter to me, right? Because I knew so clear of where I was going to be positioned a year from then, 5 years from then, 10 years from then, and I was going to do whatever it absolutely took. And I would sell anything, morally and ethically, of course, needs to be in alignment with my values. But I would sell anything that was needed, right? But what I realized is people don't actually buy what they need; they buy what they want. And what I've learned through the system is you have to create an environment where people want to purchase what you have. And at that time, like I said, we were selling like insulation, LED lighting, just simple weather stripping, simple things that people could make their homes more energy efficient, right? And that's something that people don't. Everybody needs that, right? Like they should be energy efficient, but we had to figure out how to make them want it. What's in it for them? And that was my first company. Within the first 6 months, so July of 2011 through the end of the year, I went from literally $673 in my bank account, and thank God I had a credit card, but most importantly, a burning desire for more. From there to the end of the year, I'd done 2.1 million in sales. And that was a very exciting time in my life. It's like, man, this works, right? I was just, it's continually trial and error, investing back into the business and learning through that process. And then, by 2012, I was able to hire, recruit, and train people. And by the end of that year, we'd done 12 million. We did another 12 million. That following year, we were in over 38 states. I had 26 sales crew up and going. And that's when I realized it was truly a system that was in place. And it wasn't really even, the product was completely irrelevant. Hence, I've taken this system now and implemented it into multiple different verticals or industries, and prove that it's a selling system. Because you can have the greatest product in the world, the greatest service in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not helping anybody, right? If you build it, they do not come. I don't care what that movie tells you. You got to have a system in place to bring a continual flow of leads and sales, ultimately revenue, into your business. Because if you don't have that, I would argue that you don't have a business. It's more of a hobby than a business. Mm-hmm. You got to have sales within your business.
Yeah, I love that. What you said there. People don't buy, what they
need. They buy what they want.
They buy what they want. Yeah, I mean, this was one of the first things that I learned, in writing sales copy and writing, putting together long form sales pages and sales funnels. I built this, training system, and it was so technical and advanced and scientific, and understanding biomechanics and exercise, curves and how the weight is distributed through certain movements. And it's like my first run at the sales copy was like overly scientific, and my coach at the time was like, nobody's going to buy this. Like, it's you're speaking way over their head. It's got to be about you build this body, and then this is the life that you're going to live. So we had to go back, and it was that same thing. You got to sell them what they want, and then on the back end, you give them what you need. I loved where you talked about, it for you, it wasn't so much about the product that you were selling, because you had created this vision. You knew what your life wanted to be. And it brings me to a question I wanted to ask you when you're talking about the network marketing and how you struggled with the duplication side of things. I have a lot of friends that are successful in network marketing as well. I sometimes I kind of like, when they label themselves as an entrepreneur or a business owner, I'm like, you're a business manager. You're really a great operations manager in a business model that's been handed down to you. So I wanted to get your take on this. It's like, do you think entrepreneurs or CEOs or visionaries, do you think it's something that we're kind of born with, like, because it sounds like for you straight out of the gate, like, you knew visionary entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what the business is, I'm going to succeed in it because I understand the vision that I'm trying to create. So do you think that it's a skill, it's a trait, characteristics that's where God given, or do you think it's something that can be learned? Because I know a lot of my friends would struggle if they had to go out on their own and try to build a company, try to build a business, because they don't have that duplicatable system. Just curious your kind of take on that.
Yeah, man, I love talking about this because I think you got to get to the root word of what entrepreneurship actually even is or means, because a lot of people have different perceptions of entrepreneurship, right? Or being the CEO. It's because entrepreneur, it literally means to undertake. It doesn't, that's the root word, it's like a French word, like entreprendre. It means to undertake. So if you're an entrepreneur, you are an undertaker, and you undertake the tasks that are at hand, right? So if that's the root word that we're going to base it off of, then I believe, yes, we are all born entrepreneurs. If we're born in the image of God, we are born as undertakers. Like we're put on this earth to go forth and multiply. Like that's the Great Commission. So we're here to undertake. And the problem is, if you look back on the last century, or the last 2 centuries, we have been taught how not to be entrepreneurs. We have been brainwashed, and I can go deep on this, brother. I don't want this could be a whole nother episode, but we have been brainwashed on becoming employees. It has been ingrained into us down to the toys that we played with as kids. And it all started really from back in the Industrial Revolution, when this concept of like, hey, we need employees, right? Because even if you look back in the Bible, man, if you look at like what are there employees in the Bible? There's really four types of people. There was masters, right? Which they're the master. They have all sorts of money and business owners and the land, right? There were slaves, okay, because they were in debt to the masters. There were laborers, which would be like what we would now know as like an independent contractor today, right? Like the guy who comes and mows your lawn. There's a specific task that's going to be completed for a set price, right? And if it takes him 1 hour or 12 hours, you've already agreed upon what that task is. That's a laborer, like the blacksmith or whatever. I'm trying to think of laborers back in Bible times. But then the other was servants, right? And servants are actually what we would call employees today. And it's also interesting if you're a reader of the word or believe in the Bible, it clearly says that you cannot serve 2 masters, right? Both God and money. You cannot serve both God and money. The problem is, as employees, we have been taught that we have to go serve to make money, yet we're constantly serving. We're leaving the family that we supposedly love, that we prioritize, but we're choosing to leave them to go make money, to serve, to go make money, to be able to barely get by, work 60 years to be completely broke, and then do it all over again. And this is what this cycle that's happened over the last 150 years of teaching people to be employees. Play it safe. Go get the college degree, right? Go in debt so you can now make a third of the income that you probably really truly need to pay off that debt to be able to retire. versus just being an actual entrepreneur. My belief is if we could all get back to just having like laborers and there's no longer any set hourly wage jobs, like even if you think of like go back to the factory portion of it of when they had the assembly line, like it's rather than you're getting paid $5 an hour to do this task, this monotony, this over and over again. Like, no, you're going to get paid. This group is going to get paid $5,000 to produce this car. Like, let's make it happen, right? I mean, I believe if we could get back to that philosophy, it would help a lot of things and help create the Christian economy, the kingdom economy, which I think well, I know it's non-existent anymore. And I believe it started back when this concept of creating employees really came into play, and I think has brainwashed a lot of Christians. And I mean, I'll say what it is. I mean, it's just that we've got this broken mentality where we're supposed to be broken, and defeated, and that's not the case. Like, if anybody should be thriving in this world, it should be us as believers that stand for something, right? It's not virtuous to be poor. It is not virtuous to be poor. Now, if you want to give and do that, great. But wouldn't it make more sense to invest that money, steward it well, so you can give continually versus just give one time, right? And that's where I think that this concept, or where what I know we're doing within the King's Council, our coaching program is
Yeah.
recreating this Christian economy and helping change the mindset on how people or what people think about money and how money and how they can use it to steward versus using it just to save it or using it just to give away. But actually, could we actually put it to use, right? I mean, it's very clear, the parable of the talents. Again, I know I've brought up scripture a little bit, but it's very clear of like what you do if you just save it versus if you actually put it to use and multiply it. Who is going to be given more is those that actually steward it well.
Yeah, that's incredible. No, I mean, I love the scripture references. I mean, like I was sharing with you. I mean, my this entire show has been a result of my transformation and fully dedicating my life to Christ and believing that, hey, this is the ultimate truth. Every book behind me, is incredible. It's got great knowledge, but there's one ultimate source of wisdom. So I love that we've been able to, really integrate that into our conversation. Yeah, I could definitely go down that deep rabbit hole with
Oh
education.
man,
I did an episode way back at the beginning. I don't know if you're familiar with John Taylor Gatto,
you
and
bet.
some of his work, but really exposing how the entire education system was
Yeah,
built to create factory workers, and even how they use bells and walking in lines and all this
yeah.
stuff. I mean, I don't really want to veer us off of that. So
We can go all
um,
day on that, man.
yeah, but now I mean that the way that you answer, I mean it I think it brings us into the King's Council and become the CEO of your life, and now it's like making a lot more sense just how you kind of framed it in the beginning of that answer. Like, we all are entrepreneurs, we all should be CEOs of our life. And when I think about a CEO, it starts with vision. It's like, what is the life that I'm trying to create, and then understanding that inside of that there's going to be the most important things to bring me closer to that. Those are my responsibilities. I want to get your take on how maybe you kind of define, or how you guys teach becoming that CEO, maybe from kind of the ground
Yeah,
level up. But I think understanding that there's a vision, so it starts with having a name, and it starts with having a plan, understanding that the most important things to drive my life forward are my responsibility. But like you said at the beginning, like, you're not doing this walk alone. Like, you got to recruit people around you. You got to have brothers. You got to have people in your corner to maybe fill some of those gaps. So um, maybe where we can start is like what does it mean, or how do you guys define at the King's Council, like, being the CEO of your life? And then maybe we can unpack some of the things that you're teaching and how you guys are really helping transform people's lives and bringing them back to
yeah.
how they were created.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we host these events called, becoming the CEO of your life. And and why we came up with this concept is really because I think if we, as entrepreneurs, again, we're all entrepreneurs, if we can run our lives like we would normally run a business, everything's gonna operate much better, right? And we believe that there's five key components to running your own business, running your own life. It's our mental, our emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the financial component. And if we can operate in excellence in all 5 of these areas, we know that we are going to be able to walk out our God-given, talents and abilities. So just like a business, if you look at your business and think of those 5 pillars as the different divisions within your company, like you have the sales department, the marketing department, fulfillment, whatever it is. If any of those is out of alignment, right, or isn't operating, at high capacity, every other area is going to suffer, right? If you could be selling a ton of stuff, but if fulfillment is not delivering it, ultimately we're going to have chargebacks, right? Or if your marketing is crushing it, but the sales team isn't actually selling it, there's a disconnect. So just like you would typically have checks and balances in your business, in making sure that we're operating on high levels, we do that within our own lives. And so it boils down to those 5 power pillars, as I mentioned: the physical, the spiritual, the mental, emotional, and then the financial component. And so when we host these events, we dive into those pretty deep, but we really base everything through what we believe is just a God-given template for us of the 7 days of creation. And if you go through those 7 days of that, there's a true structure and an order to it on how and when God created each component. And in the very, very first day was let there be light. Right. And when we talk about vision, it's making sure, as I mentioned earlier, even at the age of 15, I knew the vision that I had, that I was casting for my life. How I was going to get there, no clue. Like, I still have no clue how I'm getting there. I know, though, that I'm still casting this vision for my life, but I'm able to walk it out by having the vision for my life and getting so crystal clear of what that is, and making sure I'm in alignment with my spouse, if you are, in any sort of relationship, but also in alignment with your creator, right? Number one, within that alignment, and then ultimately our alignments on this earth here, oftentimes our assignments will be birthed, right? We talk about a lot about that, like within our alignments, birth our assignments. And that's that relational component of being able to walk out these 7 days. So again, it starts back with vision, and then God separated the heavens from the earth, right? So it's basically the culture, the environment that we're putting ourselves in, how important that is. And this blueprint should be used not only in our personal life, but if you're going to start a business, or you're going to start anything, if you walk through this component or this blueprint, it's gonna get much easier for you throughout this process, because it goes from vision to culture to structure and order to movement, momentum, and then ultimately God created us for relationship, and then ultimately a day of rest, right? So those are the 7 days of creation that we teach. But if at any point we feel like something's out of alignment or isn't working in our life, like for instance, my spouse and I, if we are just struggling, like there's just no passion, there's no movement going on, we're not getting frisky in the bedroom, right? So I would take that as like the movement day, right? Of when God actually created like the creatures of the ground, and they were in the birds of the air, right? So if I look back to the previous day, which would technically be order, and I would look then at, do I have order in my place? Have we set time? Have we set alone time for my wife and I to actually have date night, right? Or to have just that time where her and I can actually connect. And if that's in place, okay, then I would look back to the next day and like, is there structure in our relationship? Like, do we go to bed at the same time at night? Like, am I up later and she's going to bed earlier? And if that's working, then I'm going to go back to the previous day, because there's usually there's going to be gaps that are going to appear if we look at it, if we basically reverse our steps into that day. But it all starts with vision. If you and your spouse, or you and your business partner, or even if you're just rocking a solo company right now, like, are you so clear on your vision of where you're going to be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? And if not, spend some time on that. And don't rush through it. Get so clear on what do you want to have in life? What do you want to do in life? But most importantly, what do you want to become? Right? Because you can have and do all the things, all the material things in this world, but if you are not becoming the highest version of yourself, again, we're all created in the image of God. So if we are not continually becoming more and more like God created us to be, then what are we actually doing? And that all boils down to the true vision of our life, and then walking out the structure, the order, all the other components. That will help really just set the foundation for a successful business or any relationship that we're looking to build.
Yeah, that's incredible. And for those of you that have been with us for a while, and you're like, I've heard this somewhere before. Yes, episode 58, Steve Weatherford. When Rylee says we, he's speaking about himself and his partner in the King's Council, Steve Weatherford. Steve shared, he shared that on the conversation that we had. But I loved how you broke it down in the reverse model. Like
Yeah.
looking backwards, if something is not going the way that the vision is set, we'll identify where, what stage is this in this plan, and then take the steps backwards. I know I was sharing with you, before we hit record, like the work that I'm doing these days is helping men in a particular area, really getting clear and removing this problem in their life. And one of the biggest things that most of these guys are struggling with, if you're finding yourself in compulsive habit with porn, or really if you're struggling with any type of compulsive habit or addiction, many times it's rooted in the lack of a vision for your life. And when you get really clear, it's one of the first things that we do in week 2 of our curriculum. It's helping them set that 5-year. Who is the man? And I like how you said, who's the man that I'm becoming? Not being, like you're a human being, but you're really a human becoming. Like you should be improving and working towards being the next version of yourself every single day, every single week. And once you get clear on that, and then we got to work through, obviously, if there's some deeper trauma stuff, we'll help work them through that. I mean, obviously understanding that we need Jesus in this whole process as well. But so love, and I think, just having a vision for everything you're trying to do is so important. So who is, who do you guys find, that are coming to these events? I mean, are they typically business owners? Are they people that are looking to transition from a
Sure.
corporate world and now stepping in? What type of guys are you finding? Is it more male, female? And then I guess we'll take that from there and maybe try to help people, obviously get connected with you, but maybe even, begin to kind of open up their alignment or open up their assignment in their own life.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been kind of an evolving process for us, because I'm all about identifying like who is our true client avatar here, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
hone in on them. We're going to market to them so specifically. But as when we very first started together, Steve and I, which that alignment in itself is a pretty cool story we can get to at another time. But when we first started, we both really had this came together and shared each other's vision. And most of it was targeted to men. Like it was just going to be like kind of a men's coaching program. But as we hosted a few different events, we did an online one. We started to get a lot of inquiries from women that were like, "Hey, I need some of this man talk in my life," right? Or women being a part of this, whether they were even if they were in a relationship, they would bring their spouse. And we've had multiple couples now that are joining us together because, I mean, who wouldn't want their spouse? If you're going to be leveling up, why wouldn't you want your spouse to be leveling up with you, right? So we found that it's kind of evolved over the past few months. But at the end of the day, the youngest person that we've had in the room has been like 12, and the oldest is probably in the 80s. So it's
Wow.
all over the board. It's just people that have a desire for more, right? And that I don't want to narrow that down into any particular age or demographic, if it's male or female. It's really just if you want to desire for more in your life, you feel like that you're called or you're put here for something more. No matter how old you are, we still have that indwelling that spirit within us, right? And what we do is we just create that environment. We have a vision for what King's Council is, the CEO of Your Life events. But we're just creating an environment that's going to help you discover, develop, and deploy those God-given talents and abilities. And we all have, as what I believe, we are all a part of the body of Christ. Like my talents and gifts are different than yours, Frank. And when we can collectively come together and we can, really live the legacy now that we intend to leave. Like it's not just to to leave a legacy. That's not enough right now, especially in this environment, this culture that we're living in. Like I have a 9-year-old daughter, bro, that I'm like sitting back and seeing what's happened over the last year. It was disturbing. Like I was distraught of like, am I going to leave this earth to her like in this position? Like I couldn't handle it. And that was like this. That was my desire for more. It wasn't to go make another $1,000,000 or go start another company. Like that's great because money is needed to have true impact, like legacy impact. But I think legacy isn't just financial. It's not what you pass on financially. It's characteristics that the attributes that we provide that our children can see how we lead, how we handle stress, how we deal with tough situations, right? That's going to be the most important component. The intellect that we have, the ability to pass that on to our kids, like that's true legacy. But the only way that we can leave that legacy is by living that legacy right here, right now.
Yeah, that hits so home with me, just kind of the stage that I'm in my life. I mean, I've done the business, have had some success, have had a lot of failures, but success enough that like I'm obviously always chasing more, just like you said, but I'm not only seeking that for I thinking that millions of dollars are going to give me all this fulfillment. I've had some bodybuilding success. I've had other things that I've checked off a lot of boxes, and when I look at this sheet of my life, okay, there's like this one remaining here at the bottom, and it's like family. Like that is what's really the driving force for me. And I mean, I'm nowhere close to that right now, but I'm so clear on like when I get to that stage, like who is the man that I need to be, and I wake up every day, pursuing that man, and having faith that when I get there, the right woman will be there, and God will bring us together, and we'll create this legacy. Just I love how you talked about living the legacy, not just leaving it, because I think so many people get wrapped up. I gotta go 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 go. So when I'm gone, that there's all this left behind me, but you're leaving the most important thing to the wayside right now. So I absolutely love that, and I agree 100%. Like no, we were all put on this earth at this time for a very specific purpose. You have a set of skills. Steve has a very unique particular set of skills. Frank has a set of skills. Every single person listening to this has unique traits, has unique things. Maybe it's being the best cashier. Maybe it's being the best employee. Maybe it is, seeking entrepreneurship. But it's you stepping in that and fully embracing how God created you and what your purpose is that makes this experience that we're all having together work and thrive. And when you step into that purpose, God, it's just the most incredible sense of feeling, and that's kind of how I got to titling the show The Superhuman Life.
Love it.
So as we just kind of wrap up here, I had one thing I just kind of wanted to maybe kind of get your take on. Obviously, we talked a little bit about this last year. We've all experienced this. You were doing these, in-person dinner events. How has the last year maybe changed the landscape of your social dynamic selling system, or how has it just maybe changed the entire landscape of business, sales, and entrepreneurship in general? I think because just going back to the network marketing thing that we were talking about a bit, I've had a lot of friends that have really like 4, 5, 10x their businesses because they realize like I can do everything I was doing in person. I can now do it mass through Zoom meetings. And I have some friends in the insurance financial space, and they're like, dude, we're hitting record months every single month because they've opened up this internet thing. And I was like, the internet's been here for a long time.
Right.
So how's it changed maybe your business and just maybe kind of the sales, entrepreneurship, business landscape in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So when the original lockdowns happened with COVID back, last March, it's hard to believe it's been a whole year now,
I
man.
know.
Um, but when they originally happened, like going into the weekend prior to this, I was like, there's no chance they're shutting restaurants down. Like that would be stupid, like ludicrous, right? And I still think it is stupid. But a whole nother podcast for that. But when the Monday morning I got that news, I was in Arizona, and I woke up and realized that we had 100 and I believe it was 111 events that week. We had to shut. They were closed. Restaurants were not open. And this was, I had over $300,000 in marketing that I'd already spent to fill these events. So these are live seminars in restaurants all throughout the country for us, and then for our clients as well. So it was like it was a tough day to get that news. But I think as any entrepreneur, or that just that spirit inside of us, as you know, we it's for me, it's the thrill of the hunt, right? It's not even like the catch itself. And I'm sure, if you've followed Steve, or if you had him on the show here, it's one of the stories he talks about is when he's held this Super Bowl trophy up above, his head, and it was like a depressing moment for him. You'd think it would be like the most riveting, thrilling thing for him. And he realized, like, this is it. This is it. And like, I just, I craved these challenges like this, right? So to me, it was a challenge of like, you ain't shutting this down. I ain't going three. This isn't it. Like immediately I'm texting my closest employees and said, buckle up. Like we're going to go for a ride here, but you are my priority and you're always going to be taken care of. And for that entire week, I locked myself in the hotel room that my wife and I were supposedly on a nice getaway in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thankfully, they had a beautiful pool. She was we were at the Valley Ho, great little resort, but she was poolside, and I was just like head down, building out everything, putting it into digital platforms, multiple webinars I had recorded over there to get not only for us, but for our clients as well, to make sure that there was other streams of income for them to be able to produce, to move their product. So it was something that I had always wanted to do, but always neglected it, right? It's like there's always other things that took priority. So until it put me in a position where I had to do it. I'm always looking at like the glass half full and the blessings that can come out of these things. And so that's what it allowed us to shift or pivot. Like I never heard that word spoken so much more than in 2020 of how we've pivoted. But it allowed us, it exposed some gaps within our company. That was great to know. And it allowed us to position ourselves so that stuff doesn't happen again, should something crazy like this, lockdowns and things like that, happen again. But then it also really allowed me to focus on, I started my first podcast, the Sales Conversion Podcast. It allowed me to, as any entrepreneur, you're looking for, or undertaker, you're looking for opportunities, right? Versus most people are looking for the risks in the opportunities. I'm looking for the opportunities and the risks. Like, okay, what's going on here? What can I do? Where are some gaps that I can fill in and provide a value, provide some, because people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. So everybody needed certain things at that time, but they're still only going to buy what they want. So what could I do from a service standpoint, sales and marketing standpoint? What could I do to help get these people through these crazy times? And so that was ultimately then evolved into, I was coaching with Steve, and then ultimately the birth of our first online challenge, and then into the King's Council, which is really our legacy coaching program that was birthed out of COVID for the most part. So yeah. It was a great year for us.
No, that's incredible. Yeah. And dude, I think we're definitely gonna have to have you on, because I mean we have 3 or 4 more podcasts just with things side conversations that we went. But I want to be respectful, for your time and for the listeners as well. So giving an opportunity here to to share with everybody, where they connect with you, where they can find more about the stuff that you're doing. We didn't even talk about your other book here, Intentional Influence in Sales. So obviously drive them to that. Real quick, I just wanted to add something, because I've spent the last 18 months understanding the brain from a neuroscience level, understanding why people get hijacked with porn in particular. It takes over this dopamine reward center that we have. And I've really spent a lot of time trying to understand how this works. And something that you said, it's like, many of us entrepreneurs, the most successful salespeople, we share the story with Steve of, standing there with the trophy, like he had accomplished it. And it was like kind of this emptiness feeling. When we understand that the reward center, the dopamine is actually dripped when you're in the pursuit of the goal. It's not at the accomplishment. Most people have it when they think, oh, when I hit the goal, when I make $1 million, when I win the Super Bowl, when I launch the business, then I'm going to feel good. No, you have to start with the vision, bringing it back to a lot of what we talked about here, having the vision, but then setting small little incremental steps along the way. And then when you accomplish those small ones, by acknowledging yourself, then you get that feel good chemical. So that's amazing. Just kind of bring a little bit of science into what we're sharing. So do have one final question that we end every single episode with. So we'll bring that home here in a minute. But Rylee, I'm so appreciative for your time. This has been absolutely incredible conversation. Where can people connect with you? What's kind of new on the deck? Anything exciting coming up with you and Steve? And then where's the best place to find the podcast and just connect with you socially online?
Yeah, you bet. So Instagram is probably where we're most active. It's the Rylee Meek, and Rylee is spelled Ryle and then Meek Meek. So the Rylee Meek. Yeah. Just text me if you want to just be in the know of what we've got going on. 727-472-3860 is my text line, so that way you can just be kind of in the know of what we got going on. Every month we've got different events going on. We just hosted an event called Upgrade Your Human, where we really push, we talk about the 5 pillars. So Upgrade Your Human is physically we're pushing the body to the limits, but also mentally and emotionally as well. And then we always have a spiritual component attached to what we do. So that day we did like Wim Hof breathing and ice plunging.
Yeah,
Bro,
we
we've
had
got
a
one coming up in Tampa actually in June. So I'll make
I'm
sure that
I'm there. Yeah,
I
give
get
me
you that
the
info.
details. Yeah, because I'm buddies with Nate too, Nate Berthalter. We had him on the
Oh, you
show
love Nate.
as well. So yeah, I've had
Sweet.
my eye on that upgrade event. I mean, I'm a sauna cold shower, but I love the
You bet.
plunging. Big fan of Wim Hof. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna look at that. So the
Cool, man.
727-472-3860. That's a local St. Pete Clearwater number. We'll
You
make
know
sure to
it.
get all that plugged in down below. And then obviously you have 2 books. You have the Intentional Influence on Sales, which is a book on NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Not the woo wee brainstorming stuff, but some real valuable pieces and just understanding word usage, setting things up, mirroring and whatnot. So we'll get that plugged down. And then the second book is your Food for Thought. I believe that's correct. Yes, we'll also get that link down there as well. That goes more into the social dynamic selling. So once again, Rylee, appreciate your time so much, brother. So last question, I kind of share with you a little bit, kind of the genesis of this show. I lived my life kind of trying to do it all on my own for a very long time, 35 years, kind of, being the god of my life, for lack of a better word there. I kind of had to get kind of broken down, go through a series of life transforming events. And then I kind of had this series of, called revelations for lack of a better word there. But ultimately it brought me to the point where I realized like I was created for a very specific purpose. And when I partnered with the right person, when I partnered with God in my life, and then I fully embraced the gifts that I was given from a physical standpoint, this vessel that we have, then I could call it my own superhuman life. So when I talk about living a superhuman life, for me, it is a belief system. It's a way that I try to show up every day. So I just love to get the guest take on how they would define it. So Rylee, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Living a superhuman life. I would say it's operating in excellence in all components. And so many people, I know Ed Milet uses this kind of analogy of this being the thermostat versus the thermometer, and I love it because it's so many people are letting life happen to them or at them, really. Like they're waking up and they're reactive. They're being like the thermometer, where a thermometer is simply a reflection of what's going on in their environment, right? It's all it is. It's just telling you what the temperature is. It's not going to do anything about it. It's just a reflection of what's going on. Versus when we're choosing to be the thermostat, we get to choose, if we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, we get to choose the mindset that we want to have for that day, right? We get to choose if we're going to look at things half full or half empty. We're going to choose if we're going to have a spirit of fear, which is not from God, right? Or a spirit of hope and love and grace and wisdom, right? Like that's all. It comes down to a choice. And that's where if we're rooted in excellence, we know that we are called to do more and be more on this earth. That is living a superhuman life.
Amen, brother. Powerful stuff there. So get out there, guys. become the CEO of your life, start to undertake your life, start to make the right choices. But we appreciate you guys so much for being here. As we always ask at the end of every single show, if you want to continue to support us, obviously, if you're listening there on Apple or YouTube or wherever you're listening, if you find value in today or any of the conversations that we have, just make sure to hit that 5-star rating, leave us a written review. But most importantly, as we continue to spread this message, as we continue to try to impact more people's lives, if there's somebody in your life that needs to hear today's message, needs to hear what Rylee shared, do us this favor and just share this conversation with them. But for Rylee Meek, Frank Rich, we appreciate you guys. We love you, and we'll see you next week.